I believed my wife's smile meant love, but it was guilt. She'd been sleeping with my brother for months, and everyone in the family knew but me. I need to tell something. And I need to understand that I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm 34 years old, and 3 weeks ago I learned that my entire was a joke everyone was in on except me. My wife Sarah smiled at me every morning for 7 months, while carrying a secret that would destroy me. But here's the thing nobody tells about betrayal. The worst part isn't what they did. It's realizing we're the punchline the whole time. It started on a Tuesday. I came home early from work, because I'd closed a huge deal and wanted to surprise Sarah. We'd been married for 6 years, together for 9. She was my college sweetheart, the girl who laughed at my terrible jokes, who held my hand through my father's funeral, who cried happy tears when I proposed on the beach, where we had our first date. I thought I knew her. I walked through the door with flowers and champagne. The house was quiet. Her car was in the driveway. I called her name. Nothing, and I heard it. A laugh. Her laugh. Coming from upstairs. Our bedroom. My stomach dropped before my brain caught. The know that feeling when body knows something terrible before mind accepts it. That's what hit me. My hands went cold. The flowers suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. I stood at the bottom of the stairs for what felt like hours, but was probably 30 seconds. Part of me wanted to turn around, get back in my car, and pretend I never came home. The other part, the part that one, needed to know. I climbed needed to know. Each step felt like walking toward an mine. The bedroom door was cracked open. I could see movement through the gap. I could hear voices. Her voice. And another voice I knew as well as my own. My brother Marcus. I didn't kick the door open like they do in movies. I didn't yell. I just pushed it wider and stood there. And while my wife scrambled to cover herself, and my brother, my younger brother, who I'd helped through college, who lived in my house for 8 months, when he lost his job, who was the best man at my wedding, stared at me, with something that looked almost like relief. Thank God. Marcus said. Actually said those words. I've been telling her we need to come clean. That's when I knew this wasn't a one-time mistake. This wasn't a drunken accident. The way he said it, the exhaustion in his voice, told me everything. How long? I asked. My voice sounded far away, like someone else was using my mouth. Sarah was crying. She'd pulled the sheet to her chin, our sheet, from our bed, and she was crying. But she wasn't sorry yet. I could tell. She was scared I'd found out, not sorry she'd done it. 6 months. Marcus said. 7. Sarah corrected him. She actually corrected him. Like the accuracy mattered. Like I'd care whether they'd been destroying my for 6 months or 7. I stood there holding expensive flowers, and even more expensive champagne, dressed in my work suit, in my own bedroom, while my wife and brother sat in my bed arguing about how long they'd been sleeping together. Everyone knows, don't they? I said. I don't know why, that was my next question, but somehow I already knew the answer. The silence that followed told me everything. Mom figured it out at Easter. Sarah whispered. She saw us in the garage. We thought she'd tell, but she never did. Easter was 3 months ago. My mother knew. My mother hugged me and served me ham and asked about work and knew. Who else? Archie knows, Marcus said. Jake, our other brother. And Lisa. His wife. My sister-in-law. They confronted us about it in June. 2 months of family dinners, of weekend barbecues, of my brother's wife smiling at me, while knowing her husband knew my brother was sleeping with my wife. Dad. Marcus nodded. My father knew. The man who gave me the be a good husband talk before my wedding knew his sons were a cheater and an accomplice. Sister guessed. Sarah added. Like she was trying to be helpful. Like full disclosure would somehow make this better. We didn't confirm it, but she knew. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. It burst out of me like something breaking. My whole family knew. Everyone I loved. Everyone I trusted. Everyone I'd spent the last 7 months, having normal conversations with. They all knew. Every Sunday dinner. Every birthday party. Every text message from my mom asking how Sarah was feeling. They all knew. Why didn't anyone tell me? I asked through the laughter that was starting to sound like something else. We were going to. Marcus said, we were planning to tell this weekend. This weekend. I repeated. After 7 months, we're planning to tell me this weekend. We were trying to figure out the right way. Sarah said. She was sobbing now. We didn't want to point. That's when something inside me went very, very quiet. Get out, I said. Baby, please, let's talk about this. Sarah started. Both of. Get dressed and get out of my house. I walked out of the bedroom. Down the stairs. Into the kitchen. I set the flowers on the counter. I opened the champagne. I poured a glass. I drank it standing at the sink, looking out at the backyard where my brother and I used to play catch. Where Sarah and I had our engagement party. Where my family pretended to love me while knowing I was being made a fool of. I heard them moving around upstairs. Getting dressed. Whispering. I poured another glass. When they came downstairs, both looking like they wanted to say something, I turned to them. I want to know something, I said. My voice was steady now. Cold. I would have forgiven an affair. If D come to me, if been honest, if shown even a shred of respect, I would have tried to work through it. But didn't just cheat. Made my entire family accomplices. Made them lie to me for months. Took away everyone I trusted in one. Sarah reached for me, I stepped back. Don't get to touch me anymore. Don't get to cry on my shoulder about how hard this is for. Did this. Both of. And made my family help do it. They left. I finished the bottle alone in my empty house. The next morning I called my mother. She answered on the first ring, her voice bright and cheerful. Hey honey, how are you? I said. The silence on the other end lasted forever. I wanted to tell, she finally said. I tried to tell father we needed to say something, but he thought it was better if they handled it themselves. He said. I'm family. I said. I'm son. Baby, and I'm so sorry. I've been sick about it. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, but father said. I called Jake next. I'm guessing heard. He said. Why didn't tell me? Because Marcus is my brother too, man. I told him he was being a piece of garbage. I told him to end it or come clean. But I wasn't going to the family. What about blowing my marriage? I thought he'd do the right thing eventually. Eventually. 7 months. That's how long eventually takes. I called my sister. My father. Sarah's best friend, who also knew. Her coworker, who'd figured it out. One by one. I called everyone who'd looked me in the eye and lied. Everyone who'd chosen them over me. Everyone who'd let me be humiliated for months, while they waited for the cheaters to grow a conscience. By the end of the day, I'd spoken to 11 people who knew. 11 people I loved and trusted, who'd decided my dignity was less important than avoiding awkwardness. That night, alone in my house, that suddenly felt like a museum of my own stupidity, I realized something that made me want to break every dish in the kitchen. Everyone had known but me, and nobody thought I deserved the truth. The divorce papers arrived on a Monday. Sarah contested everything. She wanted half the house I'd bought before we met, half my retirement, spousal support. Her lawyer sent a letter, explaining that she'd sacrificed her support mine, disappointing, that she deserved compensation for her contributions to our together. She'd sacrificed her career. That's what the letter said. The same career she put on hold to sleep with my brother 3 afternoons a week while I was at work building the she now wanted half of. I hired the meanest lawyer I could find. A woman named Patricia, who looked at Sarah's demands and actually laughed. She cheated with brother and wants to pay her for it. Patricia said. This is going to be fun. But that's not the story I need to tell. The divorce was but predictable. What happened with my family was worse because I didn't see it coming. 2 weeks after I kicked them out, my father called and asked me to come to dinner. Family meeting, he said. We need to talk about this situation. I should have known better, but some part of me thought maybe, finally, someone was going to apologize. I showed to my parents' house on Sunday at 6. Everyone was there. Mom, Dad, Jake and Lisa, my sister Rachel and her husband Tom, and Marcus. Because of course Marcus was there. Sarah wasn't there. That should have been my first clue about which way this was going. We sat around the dining room table, where we'd had 1,000 family dinners, where I'd announced my engagement, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays and pretended to be a family that loved each other. My father cleared his throat. He's a big man, ex-military, the kind of guy who commands a room. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. We asked here because this has gone on long enough, he said. This family is being torn apart, and we need to fix it. I agree, I said. They should have told me 7 months ago. What's done is done, Dad said. We can't change the past. But we can decide how we move forward. I looked around the table. Everyone was looking at their plates except Marcus, who was looking at me with something like defiance. Marcus has something he wants to say, Mom prompted. My brother took a breath. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to happen. Sarah and we just connected on a level that was unexpected. I fought it for a long time, but some things are bigger than us. I'm sorry, God, but I'm not sorry I found someone I love. The table was quiet. Waiting, I realized they expected me to respond. To accept this, to move on. Are together now? I asked Marcus. And Sarah? He nodded. We're getting an apartment together next month. So we're in love. This isn't just an affair. We're actually in love with my wife. Ex-wife. Marcus corrected. Mark's complicated, but yes. I turned to my father. And brought me here to what, exactly? Forgive them. Give them my blessing. I brought here to remind that he's brother. Dad said. His voice was hard now. The voice that meant he was done with discussion. They had 2 weeks to be angry. That's enough. Marcus made a mistake, but he's family. Sarah's filing for divorce. We're both moving on. It's time to let this go. Let it go. I repeated. Yes, let it go, or acting like the only person who's ever been cheated on. People survive worse. I'll survive this. I looked at my mother. She was staring at her napkin, folding and refolding it. I looked at Jake, who wouldn't meet my eyes. At Rachel, who looked uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to say anything. So this is an intervention. I said slowly. Brought me here to tell me to get over it. So Marcus doesn't have to feel bad. Brought here to save this family. Mom said quietly. We've already lost enough. What have we lost? I asked. Marcus is fine, he got what he wanted. Sarah's fine. She's getting half of everything I own. We're all fine because don't have to pretend anymore. I'm the only one who lost anything. Or not the only one suffering. Rachel said. She finally looked at me. This has been all of us. The tension, the taking sides. Mom crying every night. Mom's crying because she helped them lie to me for 7 months. That's not fair. Mom said, her voice breaking. I was in an impossible position. No, we're in a simple position. Could have told son his wife was cheating on him, but chose Marcus instead. I didn't choose anyone, Mom said. I was trying to hold this family together. By letting them destroy my marriage. Marriage was already over. Marcus said. His voice was sharp now, angry. Sarah was unhappy for years, she told me. We're never home, never present. Made her feel invisible. I didn't steal her. She came to me because weren't there. The table erupted. Everyone talking at once. Dad telling Marcus to watch his tone. Mom crying. Lisa saying this wasn't productive. Jake telling everyone to calm down. I just sat there. Watching my family scramble to rewrite history in real time. Watching them turn me into the villain of a story where I was the victim. When the noise died down, I spoke quietly. When did it start? The exact day. Sarah and Marcus looked at each other. Sarah. I said Sarah. Because she was there. Sitting in my parents' kitchen. She'd arrived while everyone was yelling, and just sat down at the table like she belonged there. February 14th. Sarah said softly. Valentine's Day. I'd worked late that Valentine's Day. A client emergency. I'd texted Sarah I was sorry, that I'd make it to her that weekend. She'd texted back, that she understood, that it was fine, that she loved me. Then she'd driven to Marcus's apartment, and slept with him for the first time. I took to the mountains that weekend. I said to Sarah. I rented that cabin loved. We went hiking. Said it was the best Valentine's weekend ever had. It was nice. Sarah said. She had the decency to look ashamed. But it didn't change how I felt. How felt about Marcus. Who'd slept with 3 days earlier. I was confused. I was trying to figure things out. We're trying to figure things out in our bed. Why was at work earning the money? Are now suing me for. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Enough. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This bitterness, this anger, it's poisonous. Need to let it go. I stood. Everyone froze. Let me make sure I understand this family meeting, I said. Brought me here, with my wife who I'm currently divorcing, and my brother who she's now living with, to tell me I'm being too angry about them sleeping together for 7 months while everyone I loved lied to me about it. Want me to let it go so Thanksgiving won't be awkward. Did I get that right? No one answered. Here's what I want to understand, I continued. Every single person at this table made a choice. Chose protecting Marcus over protecting me. Chose avoiding discomfort over telling the truth. Chose their relationship over my dignity. And now, choosing to gaslight me into thinking I'm the problem, because I won't smile and pass the potatoes to the woman who destroyed my pine. She didn't destroy, Dad said. We're being dramatic. I had a wife who I trusted. A brother who I loved. A family who I thought had my back. In one day, I lost all three. And are telling me I'm being dramatic. Still have a family. Mom pleaded. We're still here. No, I said. We're here. But are not my family anymore. Family doesn't do what did. I walked toward the door. Rachel caught after me. I've walk out that door. If can't forgive this, or choosing to be alone. I turned back. I'm not choosing to be alone. Chose that for me 7 months ago, when all decided I didn't deserve the truth. I'm just accepting the choice already made. I left. Behind me, I heard my mother sobbing. I heard my father's angry voice. I heard someone, maybe Jake, say I'd come around eventually. That was 8 days ago. Since then, I'd received exactly 3 text messages from my family. One from Rachel saying I was being selfish. One from my father saying I was acting like a child. One from Jake saying he understood I was, but I needed to think about Mom's pressure. Not one apology. Not one person saying I was right to be angry. Not one acknowledgement that what they did was wrong. I spent last Sunday alone in my house. The house I'm about to lose half of in the divorce. I ordered pizza and watched football by. I thought about calling someone. Inviting a friend over. Then I remembered that most of my friends were mutual friends. Sarah's friends first, and they'd already chosen sides. She got the friends too. Of course she did. She's the victim in their version of the story. The unhappy wife whose workaholic husband drove her into another man's arms. My brother's arms. Specifically. But that detail gets glossed over when they talk about it. I found out about the narrative because one of the friends, Mike, who I thought was actually my friend, sent me a long text about how he understood both sides. But he couldn't pick between me and Sarah, so he was staying neutral. Neutral. Like sleeping with husband's brother, is a political position, can be neutral about. He included a paragraph about how Sarah had confided in him about how lonely she was. How I worked 60-hour weeks. How I'd become a stranger. How Marcus actually listened to her. Actually saw her. I blocked his number. Then I went through my phone, and looked at how many people I had left. After blocking the mutual friends, the family, the people who knew and didn't tell me, I had 11 contacts left. 11 people in my entire phone who hadn't betrayed me, or chosen them over me. 4 were college friends I barely talked to anymore. 3 were work colleagues. 2 were my lawyer and my accountant. 1 was the guy who my hair. 1 was my dentist's office. I'm 34 years old and I have 11 people in my phone. Last night I drove past my parents' house. I don't know why. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. The lights were on. There were 3 cars in the driveway. I recognized them. Jake's truck. Rachel's SUV. Marcus's car. They were having Sunday dinner without me. They'd closed ranks, moved on, replaced me at the table. I wondered if they said grace before dinner. I wondered if anyone mentioned my name. I wondered if Marcus sat in my old seat. I sat in my car, at the end of the street for 20 minutes. Watching the warm light spill from the windows of the house I grew in. The house I was no longer welcome in because I wouldn't forgive fast enough. Because my pain was inconvenient. Because it's supposed to be thicker than water, but apparently only when it's convenient for everyone else. My phone rang. Number. I almost didn't answer. Is this David? A woman's voice. Wes. This is Carol. I'm friends with cousin Beth. She told me what happened. I hope don't mind me calling. I did mind. I minded everything. But I said, it's fine. I wanted to know that Beth told the family what happened at parents' house. The intervention. And we think it's the way they're treating Thanks. I said. I meant it. I'm calling 'cause I went through something similar. Different details, but the same betrayal. And I want to know it gets better, but not in the way think. What do mean? It doesn't stop. Don't wake one day and forget. But stop expecting them to understand. Stop waiting for the apology. Build something new. We talked for 40 minutes. She told me her story. Her husband. Her best friend, her family who chose them. She told me about the years after, the slow reconstruction of a. She didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't promise me it would all work out. But she made me feel less alone. For 40 minutes, someone understood. When we hung, I looked back at my parents' house one last time. Then I drove home to the house I'd soon have to sell. I poured a drink. I sat on my couch, and I accepted something I'd been fighting for 2 weeks. This was my now. No Wi-Fi. No family. No friends. Just me and 11 contacts and a lawyer named Patricia, who thought my pain was fun.